Hi everyone, today we are going to study mechanism of breathing from the chapter Breathing and Exchange of Gases, class level zoology topic from human physiology. So the mechanism of breathing, we will be studying the process of inspiration and expiration, that is inhalation and exhalation. Since human lungs are negative pressure lungs and volume of lungs cannot be directly controlled by us, hence it is controlled by the volume of the thoracic chamber. If we all know, lungs are present in the airtight chamber where it is protected from the anterior by the sternum, posterior by the diaphragm, ventrally by the sternum and dorsally by the bones of vertebral column. So lungs are situated in an airtight chamber. You can compare these lungs with an like a sac or balloon-like structure where it is highly vascularized as well as contains millions of structural and functional unit, that is called alveoli. So alveoli are lined by squamous epithelium, and the capillaries which supply blood to these lung alveoli are also lined by squamous epithelium together, where we call it as basement membrane, which is less than 1 mm thickness. Though there are 3 layers, we have only 1 mm thickness. To reach this surface, how the gaseous exchange is taking place between an atmosphere and lungs, that we will be going to study here. So the very first step in mechanism of breathing is inspiration followed by expiration. Intake of an air from atmosphere into lungs is called inspiration, and passive expelling of air from the lungs is called expiration. And we also should make note of it that inspiration is an active process where our diaphragm is contracting and flattening, and since it is contracting and flattening, it is an active process where energy is required. Whereas in expiration, diaphragm is flat, it's attaining the dome shape from the flat shape as well as it is relaxing. Hence, we call it as a passive process. Now, coming with the inspiration, what are the changes that are occurring in this system or environment of the lungs? Let us check. So, diaphragm contracts, flattens, vertical volume, that is anterior-posterior axis, increases, as well as at the same time the rib cages which we have, they have an specialized muscles called intercostal muscles. The intercostal muscles present on the outer surface is called external intercostal muscles, and the one which is present inner towards the lungs is called internal intercostal muscles. So the contraction of diaphragm and the contraction of external intercostal muscles will bring the changes in 2 axes. One is vertical volume and the dorsoventral axis. So the volume in these 2 places or in these 2 locations are increasing, thereby the thoracic volume increases and the thoracic pressure decreases. As a result, from the higher pressure area, that is atmosphere, the air rushes into the lungs where it is having very less negative pressure area. That's why human lungs are called negative pressure lungs. So lungs expand and the pulmonary volume increases, hence intrapulmonary pressure decreases. Air from higher pressure, atmospheric pressure, moves into from outside moves into the lungs. From outside it moves into the lungs. So inhalation, diaphragm contracts, moves down. So it is attaining flattened shape. Otherwise the diaphragm is, we call it as a normal shape or dome shape. Coming with the expiration, the next process in breathing is expiration, also called exhalation. Here intercostal muscles and diaphragm relaxing. There is no additional any changes here. There is no contraction of any muscle. That's why we call it as a passive process. The thoracic cavity again regains its original position. Hence thoracic volume decreases, pulmonary volume decreases, and now lungs are having higher pressure area compared to our atmosphere. Air from the lungs will move out into the atmosphere. So that is called exhalation or expiration. So what we have to observe here, for example, when we are doing pranayama, our yoga guru will ask us to inhale and complete exhalation is also told. During that you can try it now with me. If you exhale forcefully, you are also using your abdominal muscles. So that contraction of these abdominal muscles in forceful expiration is also contracting only in forceful expiration. Hence, forceful expiration is active process. We have inspiration, which is an active process. Expiration is a passive process. Forceful expiration is an active process. Why? Because our abdominal muscles as well as internal intercostal muscles are contracting. So that's the reason there was one PYQ question on this. Forceful expiration is an active process. Why? Because we are seeing the contraction of abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscles. Next. So, what is the shape of diaphragm here? Diaphragm is attaining normal shape. As per our NCERT textbook, it is normal shape. Normal shape means it is dome shaped. Okay. Then next, coming with the respiratory volumes and capacities. See, we are inhaling amount of gases. It is getting exchanged. It is also residuing inside our lungs. So all these capacities are very important from the functioning of lungs. So when we are, for example, a person is suffering from any respiratory disorder, his body will be under oxygen deficient, for example in pneumonia or any other infections of lung. So that time the doctors will diagnose that person. So what might be the reason why his oxygen saturation level is decreasing. You might have seen during COVID time and all, doctor used to ask us to keep one small machine which is called like oxygen saturation machine, which is showing like it is above 90%, then your blood is having enough oxygen. If it decreases like below 60, 50, then you are under oxygen deficiency. So that's the very important criteria. So the reason for that oxygen, very less oxygen saturation is the amount of gas entering into our pulmonous, that is lungs. So how do we measure it? We can't measure directly. We have one instrument called spirometer. So spirometer is the instrument which measures the volumes of our lungs. Okay, so whatever the amount of air enters, whatever the amount of air comes out during expiration, inspiration, forceful expiration, forceful inspiration, all these will be measured by the spirometer. So now coming with the what are these respiratory volumes and capacities. These are measured and calculated using the spirometer values. So very first is tidal volume. This graph will help us to understand the volumes better. So let us take for example, very first one we have is tidal volume. So tidal means wave. The wave comes and hits the banks and again go back. Same way, at a normal position, sit relaxedly and breathe in and breathe out. Take breathe in and breathe out. What you are doing is tidal volume. So what is the tidal volume per breath is 500 ml. 500 ml of air is going in and the same amount of air is coming out, that is tidal volume. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. That is inspire, expire, inspire, expire. So this becomes our tidal volume. So tidal volume amount is 500 ml. So now in our NCERT textbook they have given 6,000 to 8,000 per minute. How do you calculate this? For this you need to apply a formula, that is, see for example, what is the tidal volume given here? 500 ml. What is the number of breaths? 12 to 16 times per minute. So this is the number of breath we are taking. Number of breaths. Breath rate is taken by us. So multiply 500 into 12, we will get 6,000. 500 into 16, we will get 800. Okay, 8,000 ml per liter. So that is roughly 6 liters to 8 liters in the total. So we call it as ventilation per minute. What is the ventilation per minute? So ventilation per minute is 6,000 to 8,000 ml per minute. So that is the tidal volume. Next coming with the inspiratory reserve volume. For example, you are pranayama. You are doing an pranayama. You are inhaling. Your guru will ask you to take deep inhalation. So apart from tidal volume from here, so this is your normal breath you have taken up to here. Okay, up to here you have taken. So you have exhaled and inhaled. But now you are not stopping at that normal inspiration, but you are forcefully inspiring. That comes to about 2.5 to 3 liters. 2.5 to 3 liters. In other words, what do we call? 2,500 ml to 3,000 ml. So that is our inspiratory reserve volume, IRV, or complemental air. So inspiration, the benefit of forceful inspiration is your alveoli or wherever between the capillary and alveoli, you have extra seconds for the exchange of gases. Our body will be taking up more oxygen during that forceful inspiration. Now, when once the air is taken inside, it has to come out, right children? That is, it is exhalation up to here, normal exhalation is done. Then your additionally again forceful expiration you are doing, then it is falling in below the tidal volume. So that is our expiratory reserve volume. What is expiratory reserve volume, children? It is also called supplemental air, additional volume of air that can be expired. When once you take in forceful inspiration, compulsory it has to come out, right? So that is what forcefully expiration is done, 1000 to 1100 ml. And also, what are the other cases of forceful expiration? One is you are doing some vigorous exercise, you are climbing stairs, you are doing some hiking, strenuous exercise you are doing. Your body, the pneumotaxic center is also sending the signal for rhythmic center to exhale more. So more the exhalation, more the carbonated blood reaches the alveoli, more exchanges taking place so that your body gets its oxygen. So the forceful expiration is about 1000 to 1100 ml. So it is falling below the tidal volume. If this is the tidal volume, it is falling below the tidal volume. Is that clear, children? The next volume is residual volume. It is the amount of air that is still present in our lungs even after the forcible expiration. It is about 1100 to 1200 ml. How do you measure it? We will measure it with the help of an instrument called spirometer. The spirometer is the instrument through which we measure the volumes of our respiration. Fine. Next, so residual volume is this amount, children, which is present still in our lungs, which is 1.1 liters also, or 1100 ml. Next volume is inspiratory capacity. So what is inspiratory capacity? It is the total amount of air that is inspired after a normal respiration is called inspiratory capacity. That is addition of IRV and tidal volume. So what is IRV? Inspiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume. How much it will come? Like we have tidal volume about 500 ml and IRV is about 2.5 ml. So 2.5 ml to plus 500 ml, 3,000 to 3.5 liters. Next, coming with the expiratory, it is same like IC. Expiratory capacity is ITB plus ERV, that comes for 1500 to 1600 ml. Next comes with the functional residual capacity. So what is FRC or functional residual capacity? It is the ERV, forceful expiration, or the volume of air that is present after forceful expiration, also residual volume. How much it is? 2.1 liters to 2.3 liters, also called 2100 ml to 2300 ml. Next comes vital capacity, that is the capacity of our lungs to hold the air. So volume of air that can be breathed in, inspire and hold in after a forced expiration, or a volume of air that can be breathed out after a forced inspiration, ERV, TB and IRV. So that is 3500 to 4500 ml. So vital capacity, functional residual capacity and expiratory capacity, these are respiratory capacity cannot be measured by spirometer but can be calculated using the respiratory volumes. So volumes can be measured, capacities should be measured, cannot be measured but can be calculated using the respiratory volumes. Right? Fine. So, and also the use of residual volume. What is the importance of residual volume? So, residual volume is very important so that the alveoli will not collapse, and also it always gives the compensation for the exchange of gases. And we say tidal volume is 500 ml, of which only 150 ml is available for exchange and remaining is present in the dead space. Dead space is the region where there is no exchange of gases. So hence the residual volume is very important for the exchange of gases. Next. So what is dead air volume? As I told, part of respiratory tract not involved in gaseous exchange is called dead space. So dead air volume is 150 ml. Fine. That is what the next. So this is the instrument that is used for measuring the volumes. Respiratory cycle is an inspiration plus an expiration. Normal respiratory rate is 12 to 16 times. That's why we calculate 12 into 500 ml for an ventilation per minute or respiratory per minute. That is the calculating number we have to use. Spirometer, also called respirometer, to measure the respiratory rate.